Well, hello and welcome to another episode of More Perfect Marketing. It's David Baer here. I almost mispronounced my name. I don't know why. Um, I was thinking just a moment ago before I hit record about a time back when I was living in New York City, and we used to every year go and buy these tall little burgundy maroon guides. And they said on the front of them a word that most people never got to pronounce properly. It's pronounced Zagat, by the way. Tim Zagat, one of the co-owners of the company with his wife, Nina, always used to say that it rhymes with the cat. So that's how I know it's pronounced Zagat. And the Zagat guide, which is relevant to where we're going today, I promise, was a review guide for restaurants, and they expanded into other areas, and it wasn't it started in New York City, but it ultimately was adopted in many other cities throughout the world. And I remember using these and being excited that a new one would come out, and I'd run over to Barnes and Noble. If you don't know what that is, look it up, and get the new ones every year. And for many years, this was my Bible to where am I going to go eat? What's the great new restaurant this year, this season, to go check out? But alas, Tim Zagat sold the company to another one that you may have heard of, a little startup in California called Google. And the Zagat guides were consumed by something that I think you're probably, as a consumer, incredibly familiar with. And this is an area that I don't know a heck of a lot about as a marketer, but as a consumer, I certainly do. And so I figured, why not have somebody who knows reviews, online reviews, the importance that they hold to both consumers and businesses, on to talk about it. And that's what brings our guest, Stormy Knight, to today's episode. Stormy, welcome.
Hi, David. How's it going?
I'm doing great. Like I said before I hit record, I wasn't quite sure where I was going to start, but suddenly, as you said something right before I hit that button, it reminded me of that experience that I used to have with those Zagat guides. Did you ever use those?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I mean, I lived in Los Angeles until roughly 20 years ago, and
Mhm.
that was just a basic thing
Yeah.
to have one of those. Yeah. Um, and Google bought everything that they ever thought people were ever going to use.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that they set up the business platform, which was Google My Business, which is now Google Business Profile, was that they knew that people on mobile devices were going to use them in the same way that we used to use the guides.
Yeah.
I have friends and I want to go out for dinner. Where am I going to go?
Yep.
And so that was the whole purpose of setting up a review guide, was that people with mobile devices were going to do that.
So, all right, as I'm thinking about, the time period that I did this. This is way before Google was a thing. This was, and you're talking about, the mobile aspect of it, which obviously is where we are these days. But there's a history here, and you and I both got into the marketing world in the 1990s.
Right.
And I wonder if we can sort of journey back to the early days of online, being an online consumer, right, and where we were at that point, and how we got to where we are now. Because prior to today's episode recording, I was reading your bio, and I thought, okay, you've been doing this since 95, 96, something like that. And I'm thinking about the stuff that you're spending time on these days, which is based around Google Maps. That's a central part of the Google infrastructure. But as I looked up the history of Google Maps, that didn't start until 2005. So there's a lot of stuff that they've developed over time. But you got into this pre-Google, in fact. And so I wonder if we can talk briefly about sort of what happened leading up to Google's appearance and dominance in the online search space.
Well, okay, if we go back to 95, I think there was like the different boards that were porting through the internet would have their own like directories, and then you would go find things through them.
Mhm.
And people were using, I mean, I used AOL originally to get online, and then I went to Earthlink, and there was not that many things. They were like lists. I remember the first time I went to the Louvre, I used a list, and I went, I'm on a server in France. And so after a while, as it exploded, it became obvious that there was a problem, that, that there was no integrated place. And Yahoo came along, and AOL started their own directory platform, and then Alta Vista was a early big winner.
Mhm.
But the problem was is that they were so easy to game. The rules were so basic that it was failing people, because people could just put themselves at the number one position even if they were crap. And that was a bad search experience. And the two guys who founded Google had a better idea. Let's take and determine the value of a website from who's linking to it. And then, of course, the whole industry came out of, fake links, link loops, butterfly links. There were so many different things, but each time Google would squash each new way of doing it, the product got a little bit better. And we went to a trade show in probably 1999 in San Jose, and the two guys that were at the booth were the two founders of Google. And my husband said, I've heard about your search engine. They said, oh, you have? That's great. And he said, well, how do I get to the top of your, search engine for Consolidated airline tickets,
Mhm.
which was at that time, we made websites and we had our own travel website. And they said, just make a really good website. Don't try and do anything. Just make it really good. And he went, oh, okay. And, and lo and behold, when we went to the documents that they said what we want to see on a website, and we did it, strangely enough, we were like in the top 3 for Consolidated airline tickets for about 5 years.
Hmm.
Which was, a nice thing to have,
Sure.
because I was a licensed travel agent, and we were able to make a lot of money that way. Now, of course, doing well in a search engine is a foot race, and you always have to be outrunning the guy behind you if you want to stay in
Yeah.
front. So that issue over time, when it was only 10 million websites, well, it was pretty simple. But when it got up to 100 million, and then it got to a billion, it gets much more complicated. And at this point in history, Google has to consistently make new and different ways to determine what's quality. And they do it by watching searchers in most cases, and seeing what a searcher does when they get to a website, to try and understand when that person asked this question, did this page answer it? And that's how, over time it's progressed, so that it's so granular, and there's so much artificial intelligence, and there's so much control over what they can see, what the searcher does after they go to the website, based on their behavior, either by when they come back to search or through Google Analytics, that, it's become a very granular thing. So to be frank, 27 years in the SEO mines has been one of those things where it's like, I don't think that there's too many brains anymore that can hold all of this information. There's certainly wonderful people. I mean, Joey Sterling and people like that, who are just stunningly data-driven people.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, the best thing you can do is make a really good website. The same thing they told us in 1999. And don't try and, load it up with crud. Make it the most useful thing that you can do, and light years ahead of a lot of people who are trying to game the system.
Well, they've made it so complex to game the system compared to what happened in the early days of Lycos and Alta Vista and Excite and all the others that you mentioned. But there is plenty of attempts to sort of get around, but you're talking about something that I think is a core fundamental that many marketers and many businesses don't think about, which is just deliver people what they want or what they're looking for, because in time it's going to rise to the top. But I imagine that if you're launching a brand new website, that you need to do a little bit of extra work to at least get the attention of somebody to start moving that boulder down the mountain, up the mountain. I'm not sure which direction, but moving it so that there's a opportunity for it to be discovered.
Well, let's differentiate two separate things in search engine optimization. There is what local has to do, and then there's what the rest of the world has to do. Like if you're a national brand or you're an e-commerce play or something like that. So if your market is large, you're running against more people. You have to do many more things to be good.
Okay, that is a good and important distinction, obviously.
Right. If you're local, and because I was a Google partner for many years, and they asked me if I wanted to speak for when they rolled out Google My Business. And so I went around to different business organizations in my area, and I had a little pad to sign them up for Google My Business and do that. They learned a valuable lesson because they were trying to make it just as hard to be a local business as a big national business. And small business people don't have time for that. They really don't. And it was just painful what they were making, the hoops they were trying to get people to jump through. So Google boiled it down in many ways to a more simplified version of, here, just tell us what your business is about. And on this platform that we have for you, because they're also the largest owner of business information in the world. And just tell us, verify and optimize this universe of information, and then we can feel confident about showing you in search results locally. So that's a different critter entirely. It's something that the average business person can, it'll walk you through there. You go and fill it out, and then they say, do you want to fill this in? Do you want us to show your address? It's very, very step by step. And here's all the things we think your business is about. We pick the ones that match you. And it's gotten much simpler. So that's local SEO. And then there's the universe of all other SEO. And all other SEO is, a moving target and a whole bunch of, pick a metaphor, but it's out there to the point where you hire an agency to do this kind of work for you. It's not something that, the average person is going to go, well, I'm going to sit down this afternoon and I'm going to SEO my site.
Sure.
No, it is not going to happen that way, no matter how you slice it. However, you can sit down in an afternoon and optimize your Google business profile. And that's a huge difference for, if you're a financial planner or a lawyer or something that only serves a particular market. I'm still shocked when I go through data of who I should be contacting. And I will look for, let's say, lawyers, and 5 to 10% will never have claimed their Google business profile. Now,
as little as 5 or 10%, that surprises me. I would have assumed it was bigger.
I find it shocking because this has only been around for like 12 years, guys. And that's what determines if you're going to show up when someone types in divorce lawyer in their market. And that 3-pack, which used to be the 7-pack, which is tied into Google Maps, is also tied into Google Business Profile.
And just in case somebody doesn't know what you're referring to, those are the top results that show up often next to a map.
Yeah. And that whole thing was originally designed. The 7-pack was originally designed when Google looked at the magic hockey stick of where mobile use was going, and they said to themselves, "Oh goodness, pretty soon, 50% of the people will be accessing Google with a mobile device. We have to figure out how we're going to show search results from this point on." And about the time that they announced that in a press release, about 6 months later, it passed 50, and then it went past 70. So most people only see those first three in the three pack because Google made it super simple. Hit the button to get directions to go to the place, hit the button to call, hit the button to go to the website. And so many people on most searches do not go down to the organic search results anymore. So, all of that other mumbo jumbo, chicken bones excitement, let's figure out how we're going to do SEO on this thing. It doesn't matter because people will not get through that. They'll be doing their thing and moving on with it. And then now there's local services ads, which also show up at the top for lawyers, financial planners, home improvement people. That's even on top of that. So now they go through that set of ads. Then they go through the 3-pack and the maps. They're never going to get down to organic search results. If you ask for a question, like how tall is the Statue of Liberty, you'll never go down to the organic search results that show how tall the Statue of Liberty is, because they're going to use a snippet. And they're going to say the Statue of Liberty is 343 feet tall, which is wrong because that's a number I picked. But they will never get down to that organic search result. So there's a lot of people worrying about the number of angels that can dance on the head of a pin as far as SEO, where the viewers, 80% of the viewers are going to be lost before they get to it, mattering on what type of search it is.
So yeah, and that's actually the question I was going to ask, is the type of search it is, because I can see how there's great value in being really focused on addressing the behavior that you've just described. If you're a certain type of business, if you're a type of business that somebody's going to get in their car and say, "Hey, I wonder where the nearest XYZ is," or I'm locked out of my house and I need a locksmith immediately, and I have my phone, I'm not sitting in front of my computer.
Right.
But for certain types of businesses, and I don't know what they are, but I'm going to guess that, white collar professional services, that the percentage is probably lower than some of these, immediate decision type, I need this type of thing. And that there's more research that goes into it, which means that somebody's more likely to not be using their phone, but be using a computer. And maybe it's not under 50%. Mobile, but it probably isn't quite as high a mobile use as some of these others.
Yeah, there's things that require due diligence. I'm gonna be buying a dishwasher, and I want to see general reviews on most of the major platforms. I want to compare them to one another. Then I'm going to go down into organic search results, and I'm going to find the retailers either through going directly to their website or burrowing down deeper in results. Now, the other kind of due diligence where people don't necessarily make their immediate decision based on those two top sections on search results is the situation where, okay, so you typed in divorce lawyer and you got 3 different companies or 3 different firms that specialize in divorce, and you say to yourself, this one has a lot of reviews and they seem to be happy reviews. Let me see. Let me copy their name and put it into Google and see what comes up. That's the situation where you want to present a reputation, which is where reputation management and reviews kind of cross over each other in the Venn diagram, so that first page is all wonderful news. The kind of thing that makes the person go, "Oh, okay, I feel confident." One of the things about being a monkey is that we're really afraid of risk. We want bananas, but we don't want to get hurt getting bananas. So we use search partially to remove the sense of risk. So when you take a company name and you put it in to try and understand in organic search results who that company is and how they're going to treat you and how much risk are you taking on by calling them on the phone and then beginning the sales process. If you see something horrible, it's highly unlikely you won't continue down that path. So that relationship between what the person sees, there's the quick and, like you said, locksmith, plumber, pipes
Mhm.
broken, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm buying something big, or this is really super important, or I'm trying to plan my wedding. I need to take a look at what people have said about this event location. Those kinds of things all come into play, and it becomes a research platform as much or more than a simple search results.
Mm.
So, from the consumer standpoint, we've trained ourselves to do this. I mean, people don't search on travel anymore. There was a time in the 90s where you type in travel and, ooh, Travelocity came up.
Yep.
And then you would go off and do whatever you're doing. So that relationship between how people interact with data has become much more nuanced. I'm silly. I mean, I like if I'm not typing 7 words in, I'm not searching. But for at least the average search has been going up and up and up over the years to more and more words, so that it's like 3 or 4 words now, as opposed to 10 years ago, it was 2 words or 3 words. So it keeps going up in little increments every single year. And we saw a bump during the time period of COVID because everybody got a lot smarter about search, because
So
we needed it to survive.
yeah, let's talk about an example of this, because I understand what you're talking about, because from the SEO perspective, I can see that we've worked to help clients compete at what we refer to as long tail keywords, right, which are
Right.
more words involved in the search, because we know that there's low hanging fruit there for people who do type up to 7 words or more, as as some crazies do apparently. But can you give an example of what, and you said travel right before, but
Right.
what have we seen over the period of COVID, anecdotally, what types of additional words might get added to a search to refine it, or what have people discovered? Gosh, I'm not getting enough from being this vague, I need to be more specific. What have you seen?
Well, that's like a Pavlovian response. It's if you don't get the results you want, if you type in travel, then you teach yourself, don't type in travel, type in Philadelphia to Barcelona. And if that doesn't get you what you want, then type in Delta, Philadelphia to Barcelona,
Mhm.
assuming that you see a pricing thing that says Delta flies that thing.
Sure.
Every aspect of it, because there's so much more artificial intelligence in Google now, it can support things like Barcelona hotel with bathroom under $175 a night. And it will pull up data based on that kind of level of granularity, because the data is there to be pulled up. So it's not just a matter of of crawling the websites. When I had a travel website, one of the first lessons we learned was, if you want to be found for all of these places, you have to create content for all of these places, because they are not going to show you for something that you don't have content for. And
Mm.
that's something, from an SEO standpoint, and like you were saying, creating content specifically for long tail keywords is part of that. You will not be shown. You might be shown because there's nobody else competing for that long tail keyword, that you're the best fit for a shoe that doesn't fit. But you want to have content for all of the things that you theoretically would be found for, because it isn't a matter of each time the incremental amount of searches, words in a search go up, that means that the AI has become smarter. Because let's say you pick one word, and that one word is travel, and then
Mhm.
that doesn't work. Then you try the next thing with 2 words. That doesn't work. Then you go to 3 words. That doesn't work. And you keep going until you get the data that you want, because nobody searches past the second page. You know, we know as searchers how it all works.
Yep.
And you get to the point where you put in 5 words and voila, you have what you want. You've now been trained like a Pavlovian dog. Next time you're doing something complicated, put in at least a couple more words than you would have otherwise. And that happens over and over and over and over. And every single person who works online or does things online, nobody doesn't have to work online to do this stuff. And that number has increased during the period of COVID. Now, I don't have any anecdotal evidence because like I admitted, I'm a freak, but people have went online and said to themselves, okay, I want to buy Adidas on Amazon. Okay. So Amazon now spews out 28,000 Adidas tennis shoes. And you go, oh dear Lord, that's not going to get me where I want to go. I want Adidas shoes for walking. Oh, no, that's not what I want. Adidas shoes, size 8.5. Okay, we're getting close. Adidas shoes that have black shoelaces. You can get as granular as you want, and people have learned that from buying, also from, now we have all of the menus. So at Google, if you say to yourself, I want some escargot. Well, Google's got all the data, and they can show you every restaurant within 100 miles that has escargot on the menu. So it's not just the issue of reviews or, I want a restaurant. It can be as granular as you can think of the question. And that's where it's gotten weird the last few years, because everybody has discovered this in their day-to-day life.
Okay, I want to bring this back to where we started, because I was talking about the reviews and the stars, and you were talking about how as consumers we've gotten trained both by Google but also other experiences. You mentioned Amazon a moment ago, and
right.
Amazon and Apple Podcasts and everybody else has 5 stars, or a range of up to 5 stars that we've sort of understood as shorthand for understanding perceived quality, not necessarily actual. And so as you've been talking and giving these examples, well, I've typed in things like Barcelona hotel private bath under 200 euros, or Adidas sneakers size 8.5 on Amazon. And what do I see in the results? Well, I see a bunch of things that show me ratings. And they are not always the most prominent. Like on the Amazon thing, I have to, and I'm on a desktop here. I had to scroll halfway down the page before I saw any stars. Certainly on the Barcelona hotel rooms, they were right there at the top because they were right next to a map. But they are super prominent and very much catch my attention immediately. And I imagine that is a key to, what you help your clients work through is, okay, this is how you're showing up in the mind of the consumer. How do we best position you to capture their attention and make sure that it's a positive, perception that they have? Right.
Yeah, like you said, search is playing up reviews more and more. And I can certainly go off on a tangent on what that all means. But before someone buys something, and this is something that a lot of businesses, even if they're paying attention to their reviews, they don't realize stars are data. The 5 stars, 4 stars, they're data. And they take all that data and they divide it by the number, and they say, you have a 4.5 rating, or you have a 4.9, or you have a 3.8. That's all fine and good. But if someone has actually gotten to the point where they want to buy something from you, they're going to read those reviews. And this goes back to the issue of monkeys are afraid of risk. And so you go online and you're thinking, I'm going to buy something, or I'm going to go to a place, or I'm going to do a thing. How much risk do I have in dealing with this company? I don't know. Let me go read the reviews. If you never respond to any of those reviews, good, bad, or indifferent,
as the business,
as a business,
yes.
If the business owner does not respond to those reviews, they don't know what the story is. They only know what the data is. But if you respond to them, you say, I pay attention to my customers in big, huge letters. And if you are lucky enough to have a really bad review, and I say this because people go, oh, bad review, oh, the world's going to end. No, if you respond to a bad review by saying, I am so sorry that you had a bad experience with our company. This is not what we strive for. My assistant, Brian, at telephone number here, is waiting for your call. We want to make this right. Absolutely. I want to hear from you. I want to hear how this turned out. I would love to, I'd love to take this 3-star review and turn it into a 5-star review and make this absolutely right for you. That is the absolutely best review you can ever get because you made it that way. They want the person who's reading it. You're not answering the person who left a bad review. You're answering the person who read the bad review a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. And that person gets the answer that they went online and read the reviews for. This company cares about their customers. That is, to me, the key to making reviews be an effective tool to actually sell stuff. It's great to have, if you have 500 reviews and they're all 5 stars, there's a small problem in that they all sound like they were written by your mother.
Yeah.
So the minute that you reframe those reviews with a bad review, then all those other reviews means that 99.99% of the time you are awesome, and the 0.01 that you are not awesome, you make it right.
And I like how you frame that because, you're absolutely right that a bad review is an opportunity, right? It's
Right.
the, turn lemon into lemonade perspective, but also that who that response is for. You made a really important point that I think is worth repeating here. It's for the benefit of future opportunities
Right.
for your business. So those people who are considering engaging with you and they've now seen you demonstrate publicly how you interact with and support the people you are in business to serve.
Right. And the absolute worst thing, and I still see these happen, is people wanting to get into a pissing match in their review responses. And I just cringe every time I see it because it's like, oh my God, grow up. Be an adult.
So I knew that was going to come up, and thanks for saying that because there is in fact and my wife and daughter love to listen to this, a great podcast, and Stormy, if you don't know this, you should be aware of it, called Beach Too Sandy, Water Too Wet. which is all dramatic readings of 1-star reviews, and often they then have the response from the business owner that they read as well, and they're quite entertaining. But you can imagine, right, what sort of perception this creates when the response is not the right positioning, for a response. Right. And I think that's a point well taken.
Yeah, people are going to leave we as people know other people have bad days. They know it from the business standpoint. They also know it from the reviewer standpoint. So if somebody leaves a review, like you said, well, water is too wet, then we know that that's their problem. It's not the business's problem. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that the business gets off the hook just because they're a jerk. It makes them look doubly like a jerk if they respond like, oh, I can't, we must make this right. We will make, as best we can, we will make water not be wet. Mm-hmm. And then the person reading it goes, oh, they roll their eyes and they move, they discount that. That bad review basically went away in their mind because the onus was on the person who left the review to tell the truth about what happened, and they obviously did not, or they're, loco.
There is so much more that we can probably cover on this topic that we should explore our calendars and find a time when you can come back to go deeper. But for now, why don't we wrap things up? And for people who are interested in this subject as it pertains to their business, we probably want to let them know what you do and where they can find you.
Sure. What we do is we have software that basically manages all of your review requests. You can send the requests out, or you can use QR codes at your location. There's a lot of different tools that's built into the software. It also allows you to respond to multiple platforms. So we recommend that you have a good review profile on not just Google, but based on your industry, Yelp, Facebook, all of the major platforms. That's going to help that due diligence research look fabulous. And I'm located at 5starsfast.com. You can see a demo of the software. You can sign up for a 14-day free trial and see how it works, put it through its paces, and see if it makes sense for your business.
I love that. We'll of course have a link to 5stars, and that's plural fast.com in the show notes, and it is a number 5, not written out, although I haven't tested to see if I type in 5 if it shows up
The number
properly.
5. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. But and this is the type of thing that I think a lot of businesses who ought to be on top of the reviews and the feedback that they're getting could benefit from, because it doesn't require them to go out and see what's going on the external platforms. I'm assuming that it's all consolidated and they're notified.
It's all
Hey,
consolidated in one spot.
exactly, and that's a great advantage to be able to then manage and respond to and highlight all of the things that that's coming in your business as well. So, Stormy Knight, thank you so very much for
Thank you, David.
walking us through this, and I look forward to continue our conversation offline, and hopefully having you back again soon.
That sounds great. I look forward to it.
Folks, if you know somebody who could benefit from listening to the conversation you just heard, please, by all means, share this episode with them. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, if you enjoyed this episode or another one that you heard, go leave a review over at Apple Podcasts. Until next time, I'm David Baer, and this has been More Perfect Marketing. Take care.